Happy post 4th of July, Andy.
Yeah, I guess that means happy 7th of July for today.
That would be the happy 7th today. That's exactly right.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
What's
You
that?
have, you have a good 4th of July, or
I did something I don't often do, Dave. You and I both work a lot, and on most holidays, I still wake up and work for a few hours just to give myself like peace of mind. There's still things I need to do and I can do it quietly. Friday, I just took the day off. Like I just took the whole day off, and honestly, it was remarkably refreshing. Like I did not expect to appreciate as much as I did. Relaxed. My wife and I went for a nice walk through downtown after the big Fourth of July parade. Just enjoyed the day, and then that calm Friday, and I got a few things done on the personal end. Just led to a nice weekend, and I was like, like I really should take holidays as holidays. So yeah, it was really nice. It was nice to celebrate this wonderful country despite the chaos around us, and great to be where we are. How about you, Dave? How was your Carolina Fourth of July?
yeah, it was nice. So we did fireworks on the 3rd of July. They did it on the 3rd of July here. That was mostly because they tie it into like the minor league baseball team. Then they play the game, and then after the game, they do the fireworks. And I have to tell you, these are some of the best fireworks I've been around. And it's like they're right on top of you. So it was really nice. So I enjoyed that on the 3rd. And then we had friends of ours from Florida visiting. So we did some things with them, and then we went out on a boat, a little lake boat, did some like tubing or I guess rafting or
Nice.
kind of fun stuff there. So it was a fun, relaxing weekend. And like you, I did not work overly too much, and those are always fun when you can do those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. Local baseball teams, like they have fireworks for all sorts of things,
Yeah.
but they are great shows, right? Because wherever you're sitting in the stadium, like it's a pretty good seat to enjoy what they're shooting off, and like it's just fun, and it's like, come on, there's not a lot that's more just beautifully America than watching a sports game, having some hot dogs, drinking a soda, people are cheering, baseball caps on, fireworks around, like it's just like hey, this is great. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad you guys got to. I looked at our local baseball team. We've got a fun club here, the Frederick Keys, just north of us in the dastardly state of Maryland. But they were playing in New Jersey for the fourth, so we didn't get to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a nice little stadium in Frederick. I've been there a couple times, so it's not too bad.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
oh, very, very fun. So, Mr. Jabor. So, all right. So we recovered from our holiday, and we're ready to get into things. We got a couple good topics for today. So let's start off because where we ended on Wednesday was the big beautiful bill. It did ultimately get signed, even though it looked like House Republicans were going to push back and grow a spine, but they caved as per usual. Not all of them, but the ones who were needed to did cave, and the shenanigans that ensue about adding $3 trillion to the deficit. You have to get something in return for that somehow. So they apparently did, just like Murkowski did in Alaska. So the bill passed, and now we see, right? It's the same thing that like we've talked about with the tariffs. We've talked about it with the like Russia and Ukraine, with Israel and Hamas and Iran. Like now we'll see. Like here we are. The bill is it's going to happen one way. I mean, it's in the law. The president signed it on July 4th as a big promotional event, as he likes to do these things. So takeaways from this big beautiful disaster, Andy.
Yeah, big beautiful disaster, right? So, I mean, I'll tell you, there's plenty to get into with this bill. And we've talked about some of it, last week, I think. I talked about the surge of ICE enforcement, which is really concerning, right? Creating the biggest federal law enforcement agency in the history of our country, and doing that while we open up awful looking detention centers in Florida, while we deploy more U.S. troops on American soil. Like, there's a lot of things to be concerned about, but taking a step back from the immediate politics, right? There's a lot of analysis going on about this, but to me, the much bigger problem and the absolutely objectionable issue with these kinds of bills is, again, this is Trump's bill. He's very proud of it. He wanted it for the 4th of July, so he'd have his moment with the B-52 bombers flying overhead, blah, 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 blah. But this bill follows what's been done for decades now, Dave, and Nancy Pelosi was just as guilty of it. Previous speakers, previous presidents, these massive spending bills, where, as Pelosi famously said, like, we'll find out what's in it when we pass it. That's a dangerous, disgusting way to do business because the reality is people haven't read all 900 some pages, 800 and some pages of this bill, don't know exactly what's in it, don't know what it means exactly to other things, but they pass it and now it's law. And so we have this huge bill the American people don't understand, minimal transparency, minimal understanding, and it's just huge spending. And there's so much crap rolled into it that, like, you start dissecting some of it and you miss whole other parts of it. This is not how good government works in a republic. Like, the American people should know what legislation is being passed. And so much of the bullshit that's been thrown into this bill, those little pieces that made politicians happy so they were agreeing to vote for it, those should be voted on independently. So American people know, okay, this was a legislation being proposed. This is how my representative voted, and they can hold them accountable, positive or negative, accordingly. But in this massive kind of bill, there's so much political mischief going on. Nobody knows what the hell is actually just passed. And that's a really corrupt, dangerous, and disgusting way to do business in the United States of America. And it's been the way we've been doing it for years and years. I mean, Paul Ryan, when he was Republican Speaker of the House, it just goes back and back, Dave. We've all grown up with it. We've just gotten used to these omnibus spending bills, these massive spending bills. And it's really a disgusting way to do business. So this one's gross. There's a lot of shit in it that's bad. We've talked about some of it. I'm sure we'll talk about it some more moving forward. But it's a nasty way to do business that we've been doing. It's gross.
But Andy, it's like we don't have to do it that way either, which is the crazy thing
That's right.
is not 25 years ago, your favorite president, George W. Bush, took
Oh my
office
God. Yeah.
with a budget surplus.
Yeah.
We had those things. And in fact, you could credit, while that happened mostly under Clinton, you could credit George H.W. Bush and some of the policies that he implemented. And specifically, he rose taxes,
Yeah.
even though against his things, against his read my lips speech.
Right.
Um, those things actually got us where we didn't have such a huge budget deficit. But foreign wars, and again, I can appreciate why people don't want to do that anymore and spend all that money. But there's so much, I was reading through snippets of the bill because again, people would post it, people would do all these things, and they would highlight certain things. But there was something that I fixated on is there was a line in there, and again, this wasn't part of the highlighted. Can you believe they spent this much on this? It was about the federal, park service, and the director could only engage in one long-term contract with a third party. So, like, that seems okay. That's a great line. But what we don't realize is think about all the costs that go with enforcing that. Like, it's not about just the bill,
Yeah.
it's about the enforcement of the bill. 900 pages of lines like that, line items like that. You have to have some oversight of that. That requires more people. That requires more layers of bureaucracy and layers of. And this exists in the federal government as much as it is in the private sector or the private sector as well. When you have all of these layers of oversight, that just means you're building it, all this red tape goes into this work, Andy. And if you really want to look out fraud, waste, and abuse, let's look at some of that kind of stuff. If you want to find government efficiency, let's stop, worrying about whether the Federal Park Service is going to engage in more than one long-term contract and trust them to manage their budget that they've been given. So it's those kind of things that drive me crazy, Andy. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's red tape, it's complication. So much of the time, I don't want to even appreciate why certain things are the way they are because, again, they're not being argued and debated publicly. And a
right.
lot of times, it's mischief. It's trying to suppress something or encourage something or politicize something. And again, like today, I couldn't tell you why that's in the bill. I don't know why that's in the bill, but it gets stuck in there and it just moves forward. And they design these things in a way that it makes it hard for people to vote against them in a lot of cases. And so the bills pass, and they pass every time, Dave. They pass every time at the end of the day. And there's so much shit thrown in, and we, the American people, pay for it. We, the American people, suffer for it. And our politicians continue on business as usual, pat each other on the back, and have their little signing ceremony in the rose garden. It's gross.
Yeah, and then this week we're going to have some of the tariff stuff come into play now. Trump has promised over the weekend. We've got several deals in place where we've got a lot of things already in works, and we'll see some tariffs go up. We'll see some tariffs go down, but nobody will know why because the president is just making these decisions in the middle of the night when he gets an epiphany and not falling into dementia. So, okay, Andy, there's some, we talked previously about, musicians, Bruce Springsteen, my favorite, Tay-Tay, Taylor Swift, speaking out against some of these things and doing their part. And in the process, they get a little backlash from certain people, and it's always funny. We had the 4th of July, and we always a song on there is "Born in the USA,"
Yeah.
and everyone takes that song to be some patriotic anthem when it's really, quite the opposite. But it's okay. It's got a catchy tune, got a catchy slogan. We'll go with it. But you had, you're a big music listener out there. There's another group that's stepping up to the front on this as well. The Dropkick Murphys. So they're out of Boston.
Yeah.
So a lot of that Boston machismo or whatever it is. And so, tell us a little bit more about that, Andy.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's fun. We've talked about this before. I know I've said both that at times, like who gives a shit what famous people have to say, but also that they should be outspoken. And I think that's probably right. Like you don't have to necessarily care, but it's good to use your platform to advocate for different issues. And I think that's right. Whether it's you and me or somebody much more famous doing their thing, I think it's good to stand up and speak out as you see appropriate. And look, by default, these guys are from Boston. They're big Boston sports enthusiasts, so I've got to hate them for that. And they've got the heavy Boston accent. I've got to make fun of them for that. Put that aside. Dropkick Murphys came out, in the '90s, Dave, as you and I were growing up and we were in college, right? Mid '90s type band, very dedicated and loyal to their local community in Quincy and in Boston and in the Massachusetts area, like hugely part of that community. And outspoken guys, right? They've been politically active for decades and not don't hide their politics, but they really sort of like got irritated with the Trump campaign during the re-election season last year, and wrote most of this album during that time. And as the lead singer said, like didn't really expect Trump to win, but then once he did, like it even sort of further punctuated some of the songs that they were writing. And it's really an in-your-face album that they released on the 4th of July, sort of like as a poke in the eye, like, hey, this is patriotism. We're going to stand up and speak up for the working man, for the working class, against what we're seeing. The first album came out, or the first song came out a few weeks ago, and it was really about, who's going to stand up for the working class, right? The people that are building the buildings and fighting the wars, and all the wealthy class not paying their share of what we're trying to do in this country. And it's just really a good working man's anthem. And it's a fun song. And it's a fun song. But as you go through the rest of this album, I mean, they hit on a lot of issues, some, other issues, some personal songs, challenges with oneself and things of that nature, but also songs, really arguing against the climate we're in, the misinformation that's being put out there, the yearning for my own sort of reinforced beliefs on social media and elsewhere. And I just commend them for coming out there, one, putting together a hell of a punch in the face album. I mean, it's really a pile driver as you listen to it. It's loud, it's energetic, it's strong, very much Boston Celtic punk sound to it, which is really cool and fun to listen to. But it's also really loud and saying, hey, we do not like what's going on and we shouldn't be doing it this way. And I commend them for standing up publicly. They've done a couple of interviews since then, and one of the questions asked, like, what do you think about musicians, young musicians who might be nervous about expressing their politics in their music? And the lead singer said basically like have some balls, like just say what you got to say, like have courage. In this country, at a time when there's a chilling political climate, right, deliberately from the White House on down, people are scared to openly express their political beliefs, which is never the way it should be. Like we should be able to disagree on political ideas, debate them, argue them, have a beer, break bed, and still like one another afterwards. Like that's part of what makes a democracy vibrant and effective. But today people are having a really hard time doing that. And that's wrong. Like we should be able to express our beliefs. Dave, you and I express our beliefs, others express their beliefs without fear of retribution or consequence. Like that's part of what makes democracy truly great is our ability to disagree openly, publicly, and speak up. I'm proud of the band for doing it. They did it in a fun way. It's a great new album. It's really good to get into. I was enjoying it yesterday. I was working out and it was pumping me up as I was going. So I commend them and others who are willing to stand up and speak up at a time when there is increased pressure to shut up and just go along and get along with this White House.
Yeah, I think to that point about the lead singer's comment about the younger generation stuff, I think this is absolutely a true statement. And we've talked about this before. People are so I don't know the appearance of what they say. They want to run that middle ground. Like these athletes these days, they don't ever want to say anything like I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm working. Like they always want to have that even keeled response, like oh, it's a teammate. Everything is a soundbite. Everything is a
Yeah,
soundbite.
yeah,
What can I say that I'm not going to piss some people off or whatever? And I think if you look back, I mean, the thing that's so ironic about the boomers is that, they were the 60s, they were the 70s, where this music, where people were expressing themselves through music in ways that was really great. And I think now we've become so, you know, public, like we're so trained to not make it not to offend anybody. And again, I'm not saying you should go out and offend people, but like deliberately do, but you should like use your voice to do that. And if people don't like it, they won't buy your shit. But
yeah,
if they do like it, that you're using that to do that work. And I think I commend them for it. I'm not I couldn't tell you one Dropkick Murphy song. I mean, I'm sure I probably heard something along the way. I couldn't tell you one, but look, I appreciate what they're trying to do. I appreciate Bruce Springsteen and Taylor Swift. I mean, using their power to speak to it. Now, that doesn't like, look, maybe you'll get the hate mail from Trump on his True Social and saying Taylor's ugly or she's not hot or whatever. Whatever. But you live with those, and I think in the long run, at least you can go to bed knowing that you weren't shoveling shit in Louisiana when everybody else was taking up and doing some stuff there. And that's a reference to Patton, if anybody wants to know. But anyways, good call out on that, Andy. I'm glad again. We want to try to. I think it's just important that you voted. I'm sorry, people were listening. We all voted.
yeah,
We live with the consequences of that for a period of time. In the meantime of that, we can do more. You're walking the protest line every so often, Andy. I mean, people, we can do more. We can get more informed, get better educated. We can understand the issues better than just what, Donald Trump says and what he, yeah, it just, this is our time now. We have a couple years into the midterms. We have 1 year into the midterm. And then next thing you know, Andy, we're going to be looking at the next presidential election. Let's see where we're at those things, but take your action and use your voice. That's what I'll
yeah,
say. I'm
yeah,
just rambling at this point, Andy, but
yeah. But you're right. I mean, it's important. I mean, we have to fight for what we believe in, stand up for what we believe in. And if we care about this country, if we care about democracy, if we care about the republic, if we care about the future and protecting what we've been blessed with for our posterity, then we have to fight to preserve democracy and the rule of law. It's going away. It's been a fight we've been losing for decades, and we have to stand up and fight for it. If we don't, the republic, as we know, will not be here for future generations, and that's a tragedy to this world and a disservice to our posterity. We should do better. So yeah, absolutely, Dave. At the ballot box, however we can, we have to continue to fight for a better future, a better America.
all right. Let's switch our attention, Andy, to let's do a little fun thing this
Do it.
this today. All right, so you and I both you texted me, I don't know, Friday night or Saturday and said, "Hey, I watched Heads of State, the new John Cena Idris Elba movie. You're like, yeah, yeah, check it out. It's a it's a fun watch. So I went back, I watched it that night. Um, and it was a fun watch. Yeah, was it the greatest movie in the history of mankind? No, but it was a fun little action movie. Was the plot ridiculous? Of course it was. You know, a lot of these things are doing. I think it had a little fun. It did poke at our current political environment in a lot of ways. What'd you think of the movie, Andy?
Just like I said, I mean, is it a great movie? Is it a cinema masterpiece? Like, no, of course not. Of course, it's a John Cena movie on Amazon, for goodness sakes, right? But is it a fun 2 hours of just enjoying yourself? There's silly stories, there's comedy, there's sheep nipples being rubbed against John Cena's face, right? There's action, right? There's political messaging in this as well. I mean, they're not shy about hiding their political messaging as well. I thought it was a really fun couple hours, Dave. My wife and I sat down, we just went to dial out. We enjoyed it. We had fun with it. We laughed. Yeah, it's not a great movie, but it's a really fun movie. And to me, like I know there's the art connoisseurs who look at films critically and they would never approve of this kind of movie. I just want to have a good time. Like just entertain me, man. And like John Cena, Idris Elba did a great job in entertaining. I don't know the female actress's name offhand. I think she's one of the she's a wife of one of the Jonas brothers, something like that. I think my wife said they all three did a really great job. Like it was full of action, energy. I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And again, like very sort of, hey, this is what we're saying politically, and I thought that was courageous too.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was good. It was a good little hang for a couple hours, and that's all we can expect out of movies. I mean, honestly, we got Superman coming up this week. We got then some other ones, but it got me thinking, Andy. Action movies. If we grew up in the heyday, the
Yeah.
'80s was the pinnacle of action movies. I think '80s in the mid '90s. We've talked about our love for Arnold. You have Stallone. Bruce Willis was a huge action
Yep.
star with Die Hard and a couple other movies. You had like Charles Bronson, Clint Eastwood, all of these guys who were just amazing action stars through it. But they're a little past their prime now. And if you look at it, it got me thinking about John Cena. Is he an action star? The Rock, is he like he's an action star, but he hasn't been in great movies necessarily, but he's been in a lot. But it got me thinking, '80s aside, so we're gonna remove Stallone and Arnold from this, okay? I'm just gonna who's your on your Mount Rushmore and of action stars for today? Like who would you go see today for action stars? And again, Mount Rushmore for people who are the top of the top, and we'll go with that. So, Andy, do you want to go back and forth? Do you want to talk about, or do you want to just list out your four and then I'll list out my four?
Let's do the back and forth, Dave. I always enjoy that.
Okay. All right. So who would you go? And again, no order precedent. If you're on the Mount Rushmore, you're all important. So who's the number one for you?
Yeah, so I'll say this. It is tricky because you mentioned some of the icons, and I shared an image yesterday, showing some of the classics. So like Arnold and Stallone, I think do epitomize the action hero, right? And so I think like you've got to acknowledge that they would be on any real Mount Rushmore. And I mentioned Sean Connery in that too, because I think he's
Yeah.
underappreciated for what he did. But right now today, I'll start with who you already mentioned. I think The Rock's great. I think he's great. I think he works hard. He's in a lot of movies. He brings that same sort of goofy entertainment quality, as John Cena does. They really light up the screen with massive men who are dynamic and physical, good at what they do. They entertain you. I would definitely put The Rock up there. He puts out a lot of work, does it well. It's fun to watch. I think he's a good modern action hero.
Yeah, we agree on this one. So I'm gonna say The Rock too. Look, his movies have not been great, and he's done probably just as much family comedies as he's done action. But his action ones are really good, and he does a lot of really good. He does a lot of the work. The sequences are really high intensity. So I agree, Andy. We'll go with The Rock as one of ours too. Where would you go with your second one?
So I'm going to go my second and my third. I'm going to go with two. They are older actors. They've been around for a long time, but they're still putting out movies, and I think that they're worth mentioning this. I'm gonna go the first one. I'm gonna say Liam Neeson, Dave.
Ooh.
He's done a lot, right? I mean, he gets made fun of a lot because they're all the same movie. But I mean, from your kidnapping law enforcement guy, your retribution revenge guy, to the Star Wars franchise, he's played a wide range of characters, and he does it really well. I mean, I think he's a really good actor who happens to play in a lot of action films, and so he brings like very good quality acting and entertainment, and he's a funny guy. So I'm going to throw Liam in there as I think right now today a top guy.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got our, Naked Gun coming up here
Right.
too, which is not going to be an action movie, but yeah, the Taken series was really good. The Star Wars one you talked about, he's close on mine, but it didn't quite make my list, Andy. But I definitely think you're on there, or he's a good one to have on there as well. Andy, I'm going to go with my second one. I'm going to go with the. Look, I'm not a huge fan of this guy, but man, you can't say he's like doesn't do great action. Tom Cruise, like the Mission Impossible stuff. Yes, it's a little over the top now. It's a little played out about how crazy he is and the stunts he does. And the last two movies have not been, what great at the box office or anything like that. But hit from an action standpoint, those Mission Impossible movies are really good. And so I'm going to go with Tom Cruise as my second one. What are you doing for three?
So in the same spirit as Liam Neeson, Dave, I'm going to go with somebody who's been around but is still doing good work, and that's Denzel Washington.
Ooh.
Denzel's been around for a long time. He's put out a lot of movies, and he's kind of went through a quiet phase where he wasn't as, I think popular maybe in Hollywood as he used to be. I'm not really sure, but he's still putting out, movies, The Equalizer and others, and he brings this just unique charm to his role. He's just got that smirk, he's got that voice, and as he does it so well, like you're just like yeah, Denzel, punch those guys in the face again. Like you really want him to just bring the pain. And he does it great. He does it great. He's not the physical specimen that The Rock is, right? But he carries the physicality really well. So I put him and Liam Neeson from that same bucket of guys that have really been around for a long time, doing good work, maybe underappreciated for all the volume they've put out.
Man on Fire is an awesome action movie. It's one of my favorites. Whenever I see it on cable, I'll always stop and see, okay, where's it at there? But yeah, you're right. The Equalizer also really good. I'm gonna go with my number three, Andy. Mr. John Wick himself, Keanu Reeves. Like those movies. When I first saw the first one, I was like, "Oh, come on, Keanu action movie." Yeah, yeah, he did The Matrix, but like what I could not stop watching it. It was so good. There's been four of them, and then a fifth one with the ballerina. There's been a spin-off TV show, but John Wick, I have to go with Keanu Reeves as my third one. All right, how are you wrapping up, Andy, for your Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, so I struggled. I struggled with, where do I go from here? Because there's so many. And I was like, let me think, is there somebody in the Marvel franchise that I'm missing that I've got to include? And so I didn't have like somebody that stood out because they've had so many successful movies. I mean, they've all done well. Chris Hemsworth has done well, Robert Downey Jr. has done well. They've all done a lot of movies. But I was like, who stood out and is different in this bunch that's a big draw that people like, that does it well? And while she hasn't had as many movies as some of the others, she's still done a lot of movies. Maybe not thought of as an action star, but I'm going to go with Scarlett Johansson. I think
Oh,
she's done it well. I think Black Widow was great. I think she's played it well, and she's done other movies where she's been a really dynamic, physical actress. And I think people really enjoy her, and her goofy husband. He's entertaining too. So I'm going to put her up there. Now, I don't know if she's really the fourth one because, again, if I was going back into the 80s, I think there's a lot of
yeah.
classic guys from the Expendables movies. It's an all-star roster. But I was looking for something a little different and maybe something we didn't think of, and I thought she was a fun one.
Well, she just had the big Jurassic
That's
rebirth
right. That's right.
weekend, and that's an action event. So yeah, she's had the Marvel ones, and she had that other one too. God, what was it called? Where she used 10% of her brain, and the more she kept going, I can't remember the name of that movie, but that was a really good action movie as well. So yeah, hey, that's an out of the box. I hadn't really thought about.
You're welcome.
ScarJo, but yeah, she's definitely there. I'm gonna go with my fourth one is Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Andy, again, the movies are never like highest quality movies, but he's always like great action sequences in them. And whether I remember seeing him in some of these little thriller movies, the like the thief movies and such like that. But like even the most recent ones, like Working Man or Beekeeper, and some of those things, like just a lot of really good intense action in those areas. The Meg, he was in those ones. I think he just consistently delivers. If it's not going to be the highest quality movie, but it's going to be a short movie, like hour and a half, hour 45, and a lot of action in there. And I think so. Jason Statham gets mine. So let's just recap, Andy, for this. You had The Rock, you had Liam Neeson, you had ScarJo, and then you also had Denzel Washington. So those were your four. I had The Rock, um, Keanu Reeves, Jason Statham, and then what did I go with my fourth one there?
Tom Cruise.
Oh, Tom Cruise. I had Tom Cruise too. So there we go. On those, yeah, that's great podcasting host by me. I forget the people we had listed down on our stuff. So, any lingering, that was funny. That was a good time. So,
I think there's so many ways to go with that one. Like you could do the 80s classic actors. You could do there's some other out of the box ones. Like I was thinking, Sigourney Weaver and
oh
Bruce
yeah.
Lee, right? I mean, they've both done a ton of stuff. There's a lot of ways to go. You could take just some of the modern again, just the Marvel universe alone. Like who stands out in that bunch? So it's a hard one, but I think like no matter what, you've got to acknowledge just what Arnold and Sylvester did for action as a genre for one another. Like they're the top two. I mean, just no one can come close to what those guys did. And you go back and look at some of those movies and some of the other guys who were in them, right? Whether it's Jesse Ventura, or Carl Weathers, like so many other guys around them. They just did so well in those films.
Yeah, no. So if you really go back and look at it, you had Jet Li, you had Bruce Lee, you had all these, all these great actors at some point were doing some great action stuff. So, well, that was a fun way to wrap up a Monday, Andy. So it's a full week for us. So we'll be back again on Wednesday. So until then, Andy, I'll catch up with you next time.